Welcome back to Journey with Jen, where we talk about all things natural horsemanship. In natural horsemanship, we're always interested in what our horse has to say. By filming your training sessions, it is my hope that I can hear my horse better, rewatching the body language cues that he gives to me, becoming more aware of my own. Taking you along today on a little training session we did recently lunging in an indoor arena. It's winter time, so Gunnar has his blanket on. But I'm going to point out some things that I maybe wasn't as aware as I should have been during the session. And I'll just point them out to you so that you can see how much a benefit filming can be to your training sessions. So I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you get something out of it and try it yourself. I always have goals for a training session, and they're general and flexible. Here are my goals for this session. I'm asking for just a walk from Gunnar, but he's going to keep offering a trot because he's feeling pretty cooped up, and it's been bad weather, and he hasn't gotten out as much as I would have liked to have taken him out. So here I'm trying lateral movement because it's harder to move forward laterally. And I'm hoping, well, he'll go a little slower if we do this. So that worked for a bit, but then after a bit, he just started giving me a sideways trot. I'm like, well, he so wants to move that this method is not going to work. So then we go to the next method.
In the next method, I start with a small circle, and as I get a walk successfully, I allow him to have more space. And this works at first, but then pretty soon, once he gets out on the circle, he decides, oh, I have room to trot, and so he picks up the trot again. I'm giving a really slow, soft cue here for walk, which works at first, but the next time he hits the end of the line, it's too much frustration for him. After the little outburst, he shakes and rubs at the bridle. And this is telling me, Mom, I'm used to getting turned loose and warmed up slowly at liberty. This lunging thing is really hard for me right out of the stall. And so here I just gave him a minute to calm down. He really just has way too much energy on this day, so we're going to try something else. I sent him out with a kiss here, which means canter. I give him all the line that I have to give him, and he uses it. Off he goes to burn off some energy. We have warmed up a bit, but you can see he's really dragging me around. The line is attached to his halter under the bridle. Now, horses can really lean on their halter, and they can really pull you around. Also, as I gather up the line here to have him turn, stop and go the other way, is a lot of motion from me. So as I'm being pulled around, there's a whole lot of motion going on. I'd like to be a lot more still, but he's literally pulling me off my feet.
Gunnar is a right brain extrovert horse, and that's his horsenality. If you follow the Pirelli method, you're familiar with that. Right brain is emotional, active, reactive, and extrovert means he likes to move his feet. So with people, extroverts like to talk. With horses, extroverts like to move their feet, so they give you a lot of movement.
And their emotions are usually just under the surface.
And this is where we can rename this video, Why I Don't Lunge My Horse After He's Been Stalled.
You'll recall that one of my goals was not to get him too sweaty, and once I gave him room to run, he really wanted to run. So I just stopped the session here and call him in. The blowing that you heard tells me that he's fully amped up and he still has a lot of emotional energy to burn off. At this point, I've clipped the line to the bit. He's wearing a smooth snaffle bit with full cheek pieces. The full cheek snaffle bit gives me much more control over his nose to the left and the right without pulling on the bars of the mouth. He'll feel the bit now on the outside cheek. Now that the bit is in play, you'll notice a drastic change in his behavior. We've used a very mild bit in a very mild way. Instead of acting on the bars of the mouth, which is only about an inch, we've spread that pressure over 4 to 6 inches of the side cheek. And this is what I'm pulling on, is his outside cheek. When I pull the line toward me, he feels the pressure on the outside cheek, or the cheek facing the outside of the circle. Keep in mind, if I allow him to change directions, I would need to change the way the bit is clipped and clip it on the opposite side. So it becomes very important to keep him going the same direction at this point forward. Even though it's a very mild bit, putting it on earlier in the session would have been unfair to Gunner because he was so amped up. I had to leave him in the halter a little bit, even though I knew he would lean on it and pull me around a bit. I didn't want all of that energy going into the bit. Since I filmed this, I realized that many times when I send Gunner out, I allow him to go out at a trot. And then when I want to send him out at a walk, he doesn't know the difference. This tells me I need to teach him the difference. Filming yourself can also tell you what you're doing right. Here I'm letting the line slide through my gloves, which saves his mouth. I had to be quick here so I wouldn't get run over when Gunner decided to change directions, and I was quick to correct his direction. One downward pull caused him to stop, and we corrected the direction of travel. You'll notice now that Gunner responds to a lighter and lighter pull on the lunge line. I can keep it slack as he offers a smaller circle with more bend in his body, turning his nose toward me more and more easily. Notice that I'm very aware of where my lunge line is, and when I step over it pretty high. I want to keep my boots clear of it. I also keep it kind of in a long line on the ground, and that way it's not all tangled up at my feet where I can get tangled up and dragged. At this point, I should have taken the fleece liner off. He's very warm now, and the fleece liner is keeping him too warm at this point. So this would have been a great time to take it off. He has come down a few notches emotionally, and he's giving me a nice circle on a light line, and even offering to make the circle smaller. Something that I like to see is my feet are moving around less here now that I have a little bit more control having the line clipped to the bit. I noticed in the next clip I had taken my jacket off, so maybe I'll use that as a cue in the future to remind myself to take his liner off. In this fanny pack, I had carrots with me that I completely forgot about, and this could have been a great tool to use to keep my horse's mind a little bit more attached to me during this session. I regret too that in this clip I asked his shoulders to go out, and then he immediately gets a reprimand for speeding up. He's confused about this reprimand. It doesn't mean don't take your shoulder out. You did that right, but I'm reprimanding him for speeding up. Again, he's feeling it on the outside cheek, but I really don't like that I'm seeing him do what I ask and then he runs into the bit for it. Despite my confusing cues, he actually figured this out anyway. Gunner's actually asking me to take off his liner here again. He's showing me that he's uncomfortable. He's rubbing at the bridle, and then you'll see him shake here in a second too. And I missed this cue completely. That would have been a great time to go take his liner off and make him more comfortable. I know that it's easy to get focused when we have an agenda or a training goal, and this is why it's important to have several goals for one session. In this case, I was so focused on getting him to move his shoulder out without speeding up that I let my horse get a little too warm. I did eventually take the blanket off, and you can see that he's steaming here. And then I took him back to the barn and I spent about 45 minutes getting him dry. If you want to see how I did that, you can click on the video here and we can talk about that some more. Anyway, I hope this video has been helpful for you, and I hope you get some tips, and I hope you really try this method. It's really done a lot for me. Thank you.